Krishna. Happy to be here and get all of your association. As Srila Prabhupada said, well, first of all, Om Jnana Timirandasya Viranjana Sharakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadahayam Tadati Shva Padatikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, as Srila Prabhupada said, and just trying to see things from that point of view, in his Vyas Puja offering to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, "I'm so grateful that you have sent all these people, all of you." Prabhupada was speaking to the devotees, that my Guru Maharaj has sent all of you to help me in this mission. So I see that Srila Prabhupada, our Parampara, has sent all of you to be engaged in Srila Prabhupada's movement. And of course, I'm some insignificant link somewhere in there, some little cog that helps to keep the big wheel going. So this is our focal point, Srila Prabhupada. However, sometimes there's a tendency to over-deify. Over-deify means that we start attributing things to Srila Prabhupada that Prabhupada or Shastra don't attribute to a pure devotee. Like some devotees saying they saw him floating down the stairs and all kinds of things like that. Well, maybe they did. Actually, in the modern world of quantum mechanics, it's said that the perceiver's point of view, otherwise what you perceive is usually more important than what may really be there. And even nowadays, by quantum mechanics, they say that the influence of so many observers may affect the object. So that's a difficult subject matter to get into, especially if you're not a physics major. But anyway, it's interesting. The existentialists, philosophers, they also thought that way. That if you don't see a tree falling, then it is not falling. Otherwise, from your point of view, in your experience, because Krishna consciousness is what it says, it's a question of consciousness. Consciousness means what enters into our conscious realm. So, what is meaningful to us is what enters into our conscious realm related to Krishna. Otherwise, if a tree falls in Guyana, it has no meaning to us. And this is the essence of the Bhagavatam. That whatever enters into our hearts and brings us closer to Krishna, that is reality. And anything else is just movements of material energy. And how that material energy moves, whether it's quantum, classical, or what type of physical laws it obeys, that's not, scientists will spend their lives and they'll change their paradigm. They've changed their paradigm so many times. Now they'll change it again. So what's important to us is what will take us back home, back to Godhead, and what will help us please Krishna and fulfills Krishna's desire. That's what is important to us. Anything else has no meaning. No. Otherwise, therefore Srila Prabhupada, his famous example, that in World War II, he was taking prasadam and bombs were falling on Calcutta. But for him, more important than run away from the bombs was take Krishna prasadam. No. And Prabhupada, later, when devotees, Prabhupada said there would be a war, the devotees said, Prabhupada, what do we do? What if the bombs are falling on us? And Prabhupada said, then you begin kirtan. And if the bomb falls on you, then you finish in Vaikuntha. Finish the kirtan in Vaikuntha. So, this is a devotee's point of view. So, we should see the spiritual master in the proper way. And we should see Srila Prabhupada in the proper way. It's like some people, they have this tendency to over-deify. And to the point where there's nothing but Srila Prabhupada. And of course Srila Prabhupada is the greatest. He's the ultimate Shiksha Guru for everyone that follows this movement. And even for so many people, he's a Shiksha Guru for so many people that aren't members or initiated devotees in ISKCON, but he's teaching them. His books are teaching millions of people. There's no end, no limit to his greatness, to his magnanimity, and to all the qualities that we attribute to him. But still, like some people, especially those who we've labeled as Ritviks, or those who believe that Srila Prabhupada is the only Guru, then what they're actually doing is limiting Srila Prabhupada. And they're, just like the glory of the spiritual master is to follow the parampara. Otherwise, the more strictly that someone can follow the parampara, the more wonderful. Just like Srila Prabhupada said so many times, it is all due to the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. He didn't say, well, my Guru Maharaj said this, but actually, I figured it out differently. But these devotees, they want to say, they think that Prabhupada's glory is in how much he changes the parampara. Many people think that, not just Ritviks, but many people think that this is Prabhupada's credit. He does something different than the parampara. And that makes him unique. What makes him unique is how he can take the essential teachings of the parampara and, as Prabhupada himself said, old wine in a new bottle. Otherwise, take the essence and distribute it or present it in such a way that it becomes very meaningful. That's not change. That is that's the proper use of our intelligence for preaching. So I was asked to speak a little something about this Ritvik philosophy, which even one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, his senior godbrother, Shripad Sridhar Maharaj, he said to the devotee, when Prabhupada first left, and there were some people, this Ritvik idea was sprouting up, he said, we also had some sentiment like this. When our Prabhupada left, and we were thinking that everyone, Prabhupada will always be the Acharya. And of course he was the Acharya of Gaudiya Math, and he is the Acharya of Gaudiya Math. But they were thinking, yeah, we had some idea. But then he said, unfortunately for us, and for our sentiment, that Shastra did not declare this. And it would be an offense against our Guru Maharaj to think that he has proposed something against Shastra. So this is the essence. Is Srila Prabhupada going to do something? So I wanted to read a little something that Prabhupada said in Bombay. Very interesting quote. It's a little different subject matter. Actually, it could be taken as just the opposite of what I'm saying now. So here's what Srila Prabhupada said. This is 16th of August, 1976. Why does Gaudiya Math fail? because they tried to become more than Guru. He, before passing away, he gave all direction and never said that this man should be the next Acharya. But these people, just after his passing away, they began to fight. Who shall be Acharya? That is the failure. They never thought, why Guru Maharaj gave us instructions, so many things. Why did he not say that this man should be Acharya? They wanted to create artificially somebody Acharya, and everything failed. They did not consider, even with common sense, that if Guru Maharaj wanted to appoint somebody as Acharya, why he did not say? He said so many things, and this point he missed, the real point. So, I wanted to read this because, so do we think, Prabhupada, whenever he wanted to emphasize something like a new Sankirtan strategy, or he would call all the leaders, and he would emphasize it, he would go again and again and again. So the real point, the most important point, who's going to initiate everyone in the future? He missed this point. He just implied it in some letter saying, what was it, here thereafter, or whatever. And that, with that implication, which is not even a direct statement, he was telling everyone that he would initiate everyone. He missed the point. Prabhupada missed the point. Prabhupada didn't think about this. Prabhupada follows parampara, and we follow parampara. Evam parampara praptam. Imam Rajarshiyo Vidu. And Rajarshiyo Vidu, Prabhupada in one sense is like Raja Rishi. He is the greatest Rishi, and he is also the leader of the Krishna consciousness movement. So he must establish and he must enforce the parampara. So this is a very simple thing Srila Prabhupada says here. Just common sense. Common sense will tell us. No? For someone to be accepted as disciple, the Guru has to accept them. No? He can't posthumously accept them. He accepts them on the basis of some recommendation, on the basis of... but yet, these devotees have invented a whole new system. Never before. They may refer to Ramanujacharya, that yes, he's considered to be the supreme guru of everyone. We consider Prabhupada to be the supreme guru of everyone. That doesn't mean that everyone will not have guru who will instruct them. So I wanted to read something in relation to that. And another very important point that I want to make. This is from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila 147. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Deta Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shiksha Guru Ketan Jani Krishna Swarupa Antaryami Bhakta Shashta Edvi Rupa. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. One should know the instructing spiritual master to be the personality of God, personality of Krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the super soul and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami states that the instructing spiritual master is a bona fide representative of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna himself teaches us as the instructing spiritual master from within and without. From within he teaches us Paramatma, our constant companion. And from without he teaches from the Bhagavad Gita as the instructing spiritual master. There are two kinds of instructing spiritual masters. This is a very subtle point. One is the liberated person, fully absorbed in meditation in devotional service. And the other is he who invokes the disciple's spiritual consciousness by means of relevant instruction. So what is that? That means Bhajananandi and Goshtyanandi. Some people instruct by being bhajananandi. No. They still give instruction, but their main duty is to chant the holy name and be absorbed in Krishna. And by their example, they're teaching everyone how to be absorbed in Krishna. And the other one, by relevant instructions, he invokes the spiritual consciousness. So this is the Diksha Guru and the Shiksha Guru. But Srila Prabhupada here is specifically speaking about Shiksha Guru. Thus, the instructions in the science of devotion are differentiated in terms of the objective and subjective ways of understanding. Objective means someone who teaches us, and subjective means someone who shows by their example. The Acharya, in the true sense of the term, who is authorized to deliver Krishna, enriches the disciple with full spiritual knowledge and thus awakens him to the activities of devotional service. When by learning from the self-realized spiritual master, one actually engages himself in the service of Lord Vishnu, functional devotional service begins. The procedures of this devotional service are known as abhideya, or actions one is duty-bound to perform. Our only shelter is the Supreme Lord, and one who teaches how to approach Krishna is the functioning form of the personality of Godhead. There is no difference between the shelter-giving Supreme Lord and the initiating and instructing spiritual master. If one foolishly discriminates between them, he commits an offense in the discharge of devotional service. Srila Sanatana Goswami is the ideal spiritual master, for he delivers one the shelter of the lotus feet of Madan Mohan. Even though one may be unable to travel on the field of Vrindavan due to forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can get an adequate opportunity to stay in Vrindavan and derive all spiritual benefits by the mercy of Sri Sanatana Goswami. Srila Govinda Ji acts exactly like the Shiksha Guru, instructing spiritual master by teaching Arjuna the Bhagavad Gita. He is the original preceptor, for he gives us instructions and an opportunity to serve him. The initiating spiritual master this is very important, the initiating spiritual master is a personal manifestation of Srila Madan Mohan Vigraha, whereas the instructing spiritual master is a personal representative of Srila Govinda Dev Vigraha. Both of these deities are worshipped at Vrindavan. Sri Gopinath is the ultimate attraction in spiritual realization. So this is a very important indication by Srila Prabhupada. That these three deities are the main deities of Vrindavan. Madan Mohan, Govindaji, and Gopinath. Madan Mohan is the deity of Sambandha, or establishing one's relationship with Krishna. Govindaji is the deity who gives relevant instruction to the devotee. And Gopinath is the deity who reveals one's internal relationship with Krishna, the ultimate goal, prayojana. So these three things, sambandha, abhideya, prayojana, are the three stages of spiritual development. So the initiating spiritual master, he connects us with Krishna. That's his function. And generally speaking, the Diksha Guru is the Shiksha Guru. And generally speaking, in a Vedic situation, the Shiksha Guru becomes the Diksha Guru. Meaning, if there's one Acharya. But if there's many people, then it doesn't work that way. If there's many people that are initiating, it doesn't work that way. And if there's the situation where most of the people who do initiate people, they're not, like in the Vedic sense, situated in one place, and they have a group of disciples who they train to a certain point, and then they give them the mantra. And then they may become grihastas or continue as brahmacharis. Brahmacharinis didn't exist in the Vedic sense. The women were just, whatever their husband was, that's what they were. If their husband was a Brahmin, they would be a Brahmin. If their husband was initiated by so-and-so, that would be their guru. That's the Vedic system. But the modern system, due to the independence of men and women and so many Kali Yuga influences, then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He also initiated his ladies, and Srila Prabhupada initiated them and gave them the Gayatri mantra, something that was never done before. Women they could recite the Guru mantra and the Gora mantra and the Radha Krishna mantra, but they couldn't recite the Brahma Gayatri. That was something Srila Prabhupada established. You can say, well, wait a minute, you just said that Prabhupada follows the parampara. But this was something that Srila Prabhupada found to be necessary due to the modern context of that sometimes women don't get married, sometimes they get married and the marriage doesn't last. So you can't say that they will just follow the Gayatri performance of their husband. And sometimes the husband doesn't chant the Gayatri. Or sometimes if he chants it, he's not following everything properly. So his Gayatri is ineffectual. So therefore everything is done on a personal basis. But going back to the point is that everyone must take shelter of these deities in order to make spiritual progress. And that's the point I wanted to make, was the first one, which is everywhere in Shastra, it encourages us to find a spiritual master and surrender to the spiritual master. First thing you do is you find the spiritual master. And how do you do that? You do that in our movement by serving Srila Prabhupada. And then the instructing spiritual master, Paramatma, from within the heart, if one is sincere, will reveal who is the Guru. And then in our movement, this is the way it's supposed to be, then you take an exam by the local temple authority, who are actually your Shiksha Guru. Because they're the ones that are actually training people. They should technically be the Diksha Guru. But because our system's a little different, multi-guru society, they may not be so experienced to be the Diksha Guru. But actually, between Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru, there's no difference. But between the two, the Shiksha Guru is more important. Sometimes the Shiksha Guru is the Diksha Guru. He gives instruction. And sometimes the Shiksha Guru may become more prominent than the Diksha Guru. Meaning that doesn't mean that there's any lessening of one's faith in the Diksha Guru, but the Shiksha Guru is the one who one is having more interaction with. That may be a senior devotee who may not be, in a different Guru Varga or a different level of Guru, having a different level of Guru, or it may be a godbrother of the Guru. Automatically, godbrother of the Guru is a Shiksha Guru, unless he's not following the Prasad, which sometimes happens. But even then, there must be respect. That was shown by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramachandra Puri. Ramachandra Puri was rejected by Madhavendra Puri. And still, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed him respect, because he was at least formally initiated, even though he was a rascal. He was a rascal. He criticized Jagadananda Pandit. He criticized Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He criticized anyone he could, because he was actually tinged by Mayavad philosophy. But still, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed respect, because Gaudiya Vaishnavism is a tradition of respect. And so, I'm basically getting to the other point that I wanted to make. So, as of a few years ago, I decided that I want to emphasize this point of Shiksha, how important Shiksha is, and how one may, there may be someone who doesn't initiate people, but that person may be one Shiksha Guru, and that Shiksha Guru can be the prominent Guru, either before one's initiation or after one's initiation. Either way. Could be either way. Otherwise, even in some cases, I initiated people who had really taken shelter of someone, even sometimes my own disciple, they were taking shelter of. Some more qualified disciple. And I told them, yes, you serve him. If he's your Shiksha Guru, you serve him. If the temple president, Prabhupada said any temple president automatically is a Shiksha Guru. He may not be like, the topmost Shiksha Guru or something, because maybe he's learning, maybe he's advancing. Everyone should be advancing. But if he's qualified to instruct and he's making that sacrifice, then one has to respect, because this is a society of respect and a society of worship. And so about 2 years ago, I decided that I think I'll stop initiating. I didn't do it abruptly, especially here, but I did in other places. In other places I haven't initiated people, and I told them probably indefinitely I won't initiate, except for some of the people who I already told that I would initiate them, or either implicitly or directly. So at this point in time, I also want to do the same here, and from this point on, at least for some time, at least for a few years, some years, a few years, I won't initiate people, except for those who I already accepted either implicitly. Implicitly means that they may not have asked me directly, but they may have indicated to someone else, and I already know about that at this point in time, that they would like to take initiation. So because I accepted them implicitly or directly, then I will do that service. But anyone else, I'm trying to encourage some of my God brothers to come, especially ones because I do believe that it's important to be initiated by someone with whom you can have some contact, or you're going to hear from, not just on the internet, but actually there's some, you can observe them. Because if you observe anyone giving a class, it looks real good. But then you see they get angry, or they deal with you in such a way that's not palatable, or not conducive to one's advancement, then that's not very good. And you can't tell that on the internet. Of course, if you look deeply on the internet, you'll never take initiation from anyone, because there's so many critics out there. Anyone can find a fault. People find faults with Krishna, what to speak of with any of us. Of course, that's something unknown here in Trinidad, but it exists. Finding fault. I know that this is unheard of, but anyway, it's a fact. So I just wanted to announce that if someone thinks that from this point on that I would initiate them, unless it's already established, then they may be waiting a long time. I don't know. I have to think about these things, but at this point I really want to emphasize the importance of Shiksha Guru. And if I can teach someone something, I can do it by being the Diksha Guru or the Shiksha Guru. And because I probably visit here more than anyone else, with the possible exception of Damodar Maharaj, who's also a very qualified Shiksha Guru, and hopefully it's in the process that he'll become a Diksha Guru. So I'm inviting him and some other God brothers to please, at least for some time, come and inspire the devotees and take disciples, and continue that. Of course, I've tried to ask people who I feel will be loyal to this project, what we're doing here in Trinidad, and what we're trying to do for glorifying Shri Shri Radha Gopinath and Shri Shri Nitai Guru Changa, Shri Shri Vornitai and Aruka. And so anyway, I just wanted to announce that, and I can answer some questions. So please try to understand this very important aspect, which is Shiksha, which Srila Prabhupada explains here in his purport. Very, very important thing. And we should try to follow the process that ISKCON has established, that one takes shelter of Srila Prabhupada for whatever time necessary. Prabhupada waited 11 years to be initiated. So it's not like some rush thing, that you, because sometimes, as Srila Prabhupada said, it becomes a fashion. Otherwise, if I've been around for a few years, I should be initiated. Even I've heard people saying, when will they initiate me? I don't know what that means. It's like some machinery, the initiation machinery goes into gear, and and then you become initiated. One, it comes from one's heart. One has to pray very deeply to the deities, and because it's a very serious thing. It's not like I got initiated, now I'm okay. I'm in the club. Not like joining a fraternity or sorority or something, that now I'm in. We're in when Krishna, from within the heart, sees our sincerity. That's when we're in. And how Srila Prabhupada defines that as when one is crying to Krishna through prayer and through the holy name, just as a child crying for the mother. That's when you're in, so to speak. So anyway, this is the point I wanted to make, that shiksha is such an important thing. And we shouldn't, our movement has a tendency and kind of has gone that way very strongly, that the Diksha Guru is everything and that's it. But this is a very neophyte position. Of course, for a neophyte, the Diksha Guru is very important. And is always very important. But Shiksha Guru, just like we see Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, I offer my obeisances to my Diksha Guru and my infinity of Shiksha Guru. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says right here in this same chapter where I just read from a few verses afterwards, he says, I beg the mercy of my before this actually, of my 6 Shiksha Guru, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Because he knew them. He knew some of them and then he says later on, to the infinity of Shiksha Guru, the whole parampara, anyone who is teaching. Because if we think, and the reason that Shiksha is so important is because Shiksha is dynamic, Shiksha is living, Shiksha is moving all the time. It's moving us closer to Krishna. Or Diksha can become stagnated. Because one thinks, now I've taken initiation, and so I'm okay. I'm chanting my round, following the principles, I'm okay. And so that becomes stagnant, and one's spiritual progress becomes stagnated at that point. We have to be looking, we have to be seeking, we have to be questioning. The whole Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, they're based on questions and answers. All the Upanishads are based on questions and answers. Most of the Puranas are based on questions and answers. And practically speaking, every Shastra begins with questions and answers, even though it may go into story form. Now, Chaitanya Charitamrita is one exception. Chaitanya Bhagavat is another exception. Otherwise, these are actually biographies of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But, everything, practically speaking, everything about Krishna, of course, there are some revelations, but Rupa Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami, and Rupa Goswami, they made some revelations, and a few other Vaishnavacharyas. But generally speaking, Krishna is revealed through questions and answers in the Puranas and in Srimad Bhagavatam. So I want to encourage everyone to please do that, and become very serious in your spiritual life, and understand the importance of Guru, but the importance of relating to the Guru in the proper way, which is inquiry. Inquire. Inquire from the Guru doesn't always mean that I have to ask a question, but it means that within the teaching, especially those of Srila Prabhupada, I ask a question, just like I saw, I was just in Houston, and they have a little Gurukula there, something that we need to have here. And it said, learning by inquiry. Otherwise, their whole process is, this is something that many schools nowadays use, the technique of everything is done by inquiry, either online or directly, because that way you remember it. If you're searching for something and you find the answer, you'll remember it. But if someone's just shoving it down your throat, all this knowledge, all these facts and figures and information, it may be very difficult to remember. So, anyway, those are some points I wanted to cover in this little meeting, and I'll stop here and see if there's any question, comment.
Gurudev, just today somebody was asking me, a younger devotee, asking me about British philosophy, and I had to explain, as far as I know, and one of the arguments they use is that you must accept the Nitya Siddha. But Srila Prabhupada said that Sadhana Siddha or Kripa Siddha can be as good as, when he attains perfection, he can be as good as a Nitya Siddha. Realization in that way. So could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, there are many statements. I mean, certainly we have to accept a Mahabhagavata. But Srila Prabhupada wrote one letter, and he also mentions in the Bhagavatam that if someone is following the Mahabhagavata, then they transmit that Mahabhagavata. So we do accept the Mahabhagavata. And if we can take initiation from a Mahabhagavata devotee, well, that's wonderful. If there happen to be a lot of Mahabhagavats around. Now, how does Srila Prabhupada define a Mahabhagavata in Nectar of Instruction? He says, in other words, he makes a Mahabhagavat quantifiable. Because there are some declarations in Shastra, and even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and some purports, Srila Prabhupada defines a Mahabhagavata in such a way that practically no one would ever qualify in modern context. But Srila Prabhupada quantifiably defines Mahabhagavata as one who 24 hours a day is concerned how to spread Krishna consciousness and the holy name. So he makes it quantifiable. When you see such a person, although they may not have all of the characteristics of which you can find in different definitions of a Mahabhagavata, which are found in Prabhupada's books and other places, he has the essential qualification, which means he's essentially a Mahabhagavata. Even though from past karma, from past conditioning, they may be a Kripa Siddha, Sadhana Siddha, but when a Kripa Siddha or a Sadhana Siddha becomes Siddha, then they are Nitya Siddhas from that point on. There are two types of Nitya Siddhas, but they're essentially the same. Those who reach perfection and those who always have attained, have always been in perfection. But what is the difference? Once you're Siddha, once you're perfect, does it matter that you weren't perfect at some point and now you're perfect? So it doesn't matter. People give so many arguments, but usually those arguments are to avoid becoming committed about these things. So Srila Prabhupada in many different places defines the Mahabhagavata in that way. Someone who's fully dedicated. Even if we look at the Bhagavatam definition of a Mahabhagavata in the 11th canto, who is it? A person who's seeing Krishna everywhere. And how does Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur described that, as I mentioned the other day, maybe yesterday, is someone who just sees, when they see something, they relate it to Krishna. They see a tree, they understand this is Krishna's energy. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this is a higher vision than seeing Krishna directly, in one sense. Otherwise, one who's simply relating everything to Krishna constantly, it doesn't mean, well, if you think about it, yeah, that belongs, it's also Krishna's energy. No. It's not some rationalization process. Yeah, I see like that, But then, when I'm in the movies, I don't see like that. Or something, when I'm doing something else, I don't see like that. So it's a vision, it's an automatic, spontaneous vision. And when one has that automatic, spontaneous vision, then one doesn't lose it. So that's the important factor. And that you can explain like that.
There's one more point. Another point is that some people within ISKCON or sometimes out of ISKCON in different Vaishnava societies, everybody is looking for the best guru. And one thing I had to tell them, this is another situation. I say, are you the best aspirant or are you the best disciple? Because they're looking for the Mahabhagavats, or maybe not Mahabhagavat, but they maybe most charismatic guru or something like that. But it's like our guru must be qualified.
What?
Isn't disciple supposed to be as qualified to accept?
Yes, the disciple should be qualified. Actually, if you look in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami, he defines the qualities of a prospective disciple. And he says he must be completely beyond the bodily concept of life. Now, how many of us are, in that category? So this is the ideal. Srila Prabhupada presents ideals, and then he presents practical. What does he say? Practically? Chant 16 rounds. Follow the 4 regulated principles. That was what Srila Prabhupada put. As far as people taking initiation outside of this guy, everybody, it's a free world, except for the 3 modes of nature, just a little detail. But other than that, we're free. So, really, people, if they think that so-and-so Swami or Prabhu or Didi, Mataji, whatever, that this is the person that's going to take me back home, back to Godhead, then that's their choice. But they should understand that everyone will see their guru as the best. May not be the most learned, may not be the most this or that compared to someone else, but it fulfills this person fulfills my need to go back home, back to God. Fulfilling my need. But that you have to make sure of before you take initiation. Not, whoops, no. I thought he was an advanced devotee. No. But, now I see. Therefore, I say, take time. Some of our ISKCON gurus, like Radhanath Maharaj, he usually at least asks people to wait 5 years. And sometimes he'll make an exception of 3 years. Sometimes. Very rarely. Niranjan Swami, 4 years minimum waiting time. And why does he do that? He said, because I want them to develop faith in the local leaders. Because if there's a quick initiation, then people just jump over everyone else and go right to the guru. And then when they don't want to do something, they just say, no, my guru said, or I'll only do it if my guru said. So instead of relieving the guru, which is the duty of the disciple, they're supposed to relieve the guru of his burden by giving service, so that the guru can do more service to Krishna directly. They're actually giving more service. Oh, only my guru will tell me what to do. So therefore the guru has to stop his, as it states, we just read, his absorption in Krishna, and say, no, you should wash the dishes. No. Or you should mop the floor. Because if anybody else does it, it won't do it. No. So that's not glorious. That's neophyte. No. Glorious is when the topmost position is when we see everyone as our guru. That's Mahabhagavad. A Mahabhagavad sees he's learning something from everyone. Just like the Avadhuta Brahman in the Bhagavatam. He was learning whatever he said he would learn. Of course, that was an intellectual exercise that's stated in the beginning of that pastime. It's engaging the intellect. But so at least we should try to understand that the duty of the disciple is to take some of the burden of the guru, so that the guru can keep himself or herself or itself, their self on a higher level. Because that's what you want. You don't want the guru to be groveling in all kinds of administrative details, so that because I'm so puffed up that I won't take instruction from anyone else. What kind of a disciple is that? No, that's not a very helpful one. But we should be taking on all kinds of responsibilities so that the guru can be absorbed in higher thinking, higher consciousness, and bring us to that higher consciousness. We don't want to bring the guru down to our level, of groveling with with material nature, telling me what to do step by step. That may be there for a sold out brahmachari, but even then, the guru says do sankirtan. Then they just do sankirtan. They don't have to every day, check in and say, stop your meditation and tell me how to tie my shoes. No, that's not proper etiquette. So we all have to try to come to a higher platform by serving the guru, not by burdening the guru. So this is the point. If somebody likes another movement, just that our decision in ISKCON, our policy is, then go there and serve in that mission. Don't bring that mission here. We have a specific mission given by Srila Prabhupada. They may have some higher mission of, seeing Radha and Krishna at every moment or whatever that their mission may be. Then go there and do that. Don't go there, get a quick initiation because it's quicker there, and then come back here. And because they don't take care of you. They don't give you the facility to grow in your Krishna consciousness. They just come around every once in a while, speak some nice Krishna Katha and go away. No. Prabhupada didn't give that example. Prabhupada painstakingly established this kind of movement by doing the most basic thing. So therefore, if somebody comes and says, my guru says to chant 4 rounds, that's okay. But in my mind, I can't accept that by doing that, you're getting the same as you're getting from Srila Prabhupada when he says to chant 16 rounds or more and do service all day long. Otherwise, I can't accept that. Of course, they will accept because that's their guru. But internal, I can't accept that. I can't say to someone, yeah, it's the same. Chant 1 round and listen to some Harikatha that you probably can't assimilate properly, which is not recommended by Srila Prabhupada. And then you're going to get the same as you would by serving Srila Prabhupada's mission. I can't say that. I know some people who I think that do give relevant instruction because they basically engage people in the same way that Srila Prabhupada engaged people. And, because obviously in any movement, many people fail. Some people fail all of the time. All of the people fail some of the time. And so, that's expected. But we have to keep progressing. And Srila Prabhupada structured this movement in such a way that we can continue to progress. So that, but that's an individual thing. The saying is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So, the spiritual master or spiritual guide or spiritual teacher can give you the understanding, the theoretical understanding, but you have to make it practical by seeing it in practice from others. And therefore, all of us, in one sense, are Shiksha Gurus as per petition of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Charita Katarikaha Krishna Padeshamara Gyaya Guru Hanya Taraidesh. That each one of us, whatever we've learned, we should demonstrate it. Both in speech and in practice. Yeah.
Gurudev, sometimes I have the tendency to sort of, split Guru into two functions. I'm not saying it's the right thing. I consider it actually in recent times to be, I think, a detrimental fault of my own consciousness. Like seeing Guru on one side performing the spiritual function of guiding in one's spiritual life in moving towards the goal of Krishna, and sometimes another managerial function. And one of the things that I felt was going badly in my own consciousness was sometimes calculating as whether a particular decision made managerially was right or wrong, or in best principle or in best interest. And in my own consciousness, I tended to justify it, that spiritually it's 100%. These instructions, humility, Krishna Kata, investing in one's own sadhana, 100%, no issue, no question whatsoever. But then I felt that seeing or perceiving this particular fault was justified, and recently I've been thinking that I put myself in such a detrimental position, like to sort of bring about this duality, like in my own consciousness. How can I rectify that?
Management is strategy. So that Srila Prabhupada would have a certain strategy, and then he would change it. So, in strategy, otherwise sometimes Krishna may reveal what should be done, like Harinam Sankirtan. Let's take Harinam Sankirtan. In some circumstances, Prabhupada started Harinam Sankirtan, then he would stop it. Like he stopped it in India for a long time, because he could see that people weren't responding to it. Then he started it up again. So a lot of times management is just strategy. So you may change your strategy. It's like many times you can find instructions where Srila Prabhupada says, you should go out on the Harinam party for 10 hours a day. And then later on he says, book distribution is more important than Harinam. So if you put them together, it seems like there's a mistake. But it's an evolution of strategy. So sometimes we make a managerial, call, so to speak, or something doesn't work. Just like Srila Prabhupada gave sannyas to so many young men, and many of them failed. Does that mean that Prabhupada, he couldn't see it? He had a strategy. In order to preach, I need these young men to take this position that will give them more enthusiasm, more authority to get the preaching done. Many of them failed. So does that, no, it's a strategy. So you can even say giving someone initiation. Sometimes we give someone initiation and then they go away. How many people went away from Prabhupada? How many of Prabhupada's disciples are actively serving him? out of the, approximately 5,000, some people say 5,000, some people say 7,000. Because a lot of people's initiations weren't recorded. Anyway, let's say 5,000. Out of those 5,000, how many are actively preaching at ISKCON? Not so many. And then there may be another certain percentage that are preaching in some other mission or just living their a good Krishna conscious life on their own. And there's many that just are not practicing. So, how can we, so therefore it's not so easy to just say, oh, that was a managerial mistake. We don't need to define things as mistakes, but as a strategy. This strategy didn't work, no? So let's go to another strategy. Because even Prabhupada did that. Very little. Prabhupada, of course, we could see that Prabhupada was getting direct inspiration from Krishna. But sometimes Prabhupada changed his strategy. Sometimes Prabhupada gave initiation. The person went away. Prabhupada gave one young man Babaji. The only Babaji that I know of that he ever gave. Because he was supposed to leave his body. And then we chanted for some time and he got better and he went away. Prabhupada gave him the opportunity, but someone had, otherwise, if we think that Prabhupada is omniscient, then he would see all these things. So maybe he did see all these things and he decided to do it that way to show people that they have to take the initiative. How can we actually, really determine? So, sometimes we have to take strategies because the devotees won't do something. Just like when Prabhupada, the first time he authorized divorce, Shruti Kirti Prabhu said, but Prabhupada, you always said that there's no question of divorce. And Prabhupada said, yes, but if I don't allow it, then he will do it anyway. And by disobeying my instruction, it will be a worse consequence. So sometimes we may think, why did the Guru do that? But he may be thinking of so many different factors that another person may not take into consideration. So it's a very multifaceted and complex thing to try to direct the spiritual lives of others. Any other question? Yes.
Dave said to me, he said, you get an older, choose a guru because you need a guru to speak on your behalf. Could you expound on that particular comment he made? Having a guru to speak on your behalf.
Yeah, that we always need guru, and that's why Shiksha is so important. One should never think, if one thinks that I don't need to be guided, I don't need to be, receive superior instruction, then our advancement will stop. So, very important. Very important thing, should always be there. As Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, that the instructions of the Guru are the active principle in spiritual life.
This same regard, this last statement you made here, I know that there are devotees whose spiritual master has fell down, gone away. But because they are second initiated, then they said that they're okay, they don't have that. Is this a fact?
Because second initiated, I didn't understand.
They are second initiated. Their spiritual master has left ISKCON or left the spiritual practices. The point you are just making here, is it a fact that they must get a guru? And he was making the point that you have to have a guru to speak on your behalf.
but not by Diksha. Unless they leave Krishna consciousness. Even if someone's guru, like, not following ISKCON or something, if he's strictly following Krishna consciousness, then they can take Diksha from someone who's within our movement. That's the importance of Shiksha. One doesn't take reinitiation just because someone's in a different Vaishnava group. That's not according to Shastra. If they become inimical to ISKCON, then you can still, through Shiksha, as long as they're following strict Prabhupada. One disciple of Prabhupada, he wanted to take second initiation from one of Prabhupada's godbrothers. Prabhupada said, yes, go ahead. And he did, and he stayed in ISKCON, at least for some time. I don't know what happened afterward. Maybe he didn't stay anywhere, no, but because Prabhupada could see something happened to him, somebody disturbed him, and that's what he wanted. So Prabhupada didn't want to discourage his faith, because that's not a common practice. But sometimes things like that happen. Sometimes people go outside, or they come to our movement, they go outside, they get initiated by, express initiations, and then they come back. So then we have to evaluate, why are they coming back? Are they coming back? Did they just go out to get an initiation and come back? That's not good. But did they just go to some lecture and somebody just offered them initiation, and being very new and inexperienced, they took it? And then, but they really wanted to be here, then it's something we can evaluate. There's no, these line crossing things are, has to be considered on individual basis. And anything like that can be considered on individual basis. Now, if someone's guru is just criticizing all other gurus, then that may be grounds for even reinitiation. If they're just criticizing and blaspheming. If one becomes blasphemous of a Vaishnava, that's very serious aparadha. But generally speaking, the reason for reinitiation is two things. That either someone becomes, the guru becomes addicted, hopelessly addicted to sense gratification, or a mayavadi. Those are generally the two bases for reinitiation. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, incomplete knowledge is not basis, but it's the basis for taking shelter of someone who has complete knowledge. So we'll stop here. Thank you all very much for your kind attention and service and dedication to this Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada. And I pray that Krishna will always give you that strength and determination to continue to advance in your spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
His Holiness Guru Prasad Maharaj ki jai.